Okay, I want to welcome everybody to our destination series live. This is our 11th destination series, and we've been all over the world. We've been from Patagonia to Nepal and Iceland a couple of weeks ago. We brought in a number of special guests, from guests that are past guests on trips, and also our operations managers when it was convenient for them to join us as well. So today what we're going to do is talk about a new trip that we have in southern Utah. And I think one of the things that we've seen this last week is that the vaccine rollout is going very well. And more and more Americans are getting the vaccine, as well as people around the world. And with that, Iceland announced that if you have the vaccine, you can travel there. They have no cases of COVID, and they are allowing travelers to enter the country that are vaccinated. So we're seeing other things like a vaccine passport type ID that will be on your phone, that you can download your paperwork on. So things are going in a positive direction, I feel. But at the same sense, we're also knowing that there are people that rightfully so will want to travel closer to home this summer. So I wanted to go over a new trip in southern Utah and talk a little bit about customization options that we have for that as well. So I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So this is a trip that we built primarily for starters. One of our alumni groups wanted to run one of what they call their family adventures for. And I think this is a great one for families, as is many of the Utah trips. But the other thing is we have options to customize things in so many ways. So obviously we're staying in the United States here. X marks the spot, southern Utah. This trip's called the Journey of Discovery. And you can see the Rocky Mountain range here running through Colorado, Utah, up into Wyoming and Idaho. And then we have our southern Utah area down here by the Four Corners region from Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. And a good example of this trip for a custom trip is we've got a couple families that just recently booked. And I had a couple that booked last week, just two people going down privately, and that's great, and it's a great place to do it. Utah is our backyard, so it's very close for us to run this trip. They wanted to opt for a different style vehicle. We rented a Suburban that we'll be running that trip with, and they also wanted to upgrade some lodging along the way. We have so many options here. It's really easy for us to cater towards upgrading lodging, or maybe making lodging a little more simpler and having a little bit more economical trip for a family of 5 that wants to come, something like that. So there's plenty of options. This is one we just did for them. Typically on our southern Utah trips, our main trip we run does visit all 5 national parks. We have 5 amazing national parks in southern Utah. The Journey Discovery trip that I'm going to go over today visits 3 of the national park, but it highlights some of the other outstanding sites that are in the state. So we'll go through it here. The best time of year for southern Utah, really I would say April through October. And the summer months are fine. I ran a number of trips last summer in July and August when the kids are off from school, families are taking holidays and things like that. And it can be hot in the afternoon and things, but we hike early, we move, we manage the heat, no problem, and it's very comfortable and a great time of year to visit. The fall season, as we get into October, of course, the days are going to be a little shorter. The desert has a big temperature swing when it gets to the cooler time of year. So in the evening, it cools off. But it's really fantastic. I've even run groups in February down in southern Utah. Great hiking, maybe on some snowy trails here and there. But we're hotel based everywhere we go on these trips. So at the end of the day, you've got a warm, comfortable place, no matter what the time of year, and a nice, comfortable spot to stay. So we're primarily in southern Utah on what we call the Colorado Plateau. It's this blue region here by the Four Corners. You can see it's in the south and southeast corner of our state. And this is the real showcase in the world for natural history. And it has a number of different geological layers, but also a number of different sites and things to explore and see. There's so many activities that we can do. So we're going to go through a trip that we're calling the Journey of Discovery today. And what is good about this trip, I guess, it starts and finishes in Salt Lake City. So flights are pretty easy, and you can fly into Salt Lake City. We'll pick you up at the airport. It's just about 10 minutes or less from the airport to downtown Salt Lake City, where we'll spend the first night at the Grand America Hotel. So people can come in any time of the day, which is pretty easy to do into Salt Lake. We'll check into the Grand America Hotel, and then in the afternoon on the arrival day, we will visit the Utah Natural History Museum. I'll have a private guided tour of the Natural History Museum from one of the museum officials there. And it's fantastic. One of the a great museum in the country, and it's right here in Utah. There are over 160,000, I think. I'd have to get my facts straight on that one. But there are it's a large museum with a number of different sites, from the paleontologists in the upper right actually doing paleontology, cleaning off dinosaur bones and things like that, to different sites with archaeology, Native American histories, geology. And the really fun thing about this is we see all this showcased in the museum, and then the following day we head into the field. So after we have our private tour of the museum, we go back to the Grand America Hotel, and then we would do a orientation briefing like we do on all our trips, make sure people have the proper gear for the weather and the adventure that we're going to have. And then the following day, we load up in our vehicles. We have beautiful vans and support trailers like this here. You can see our cargo support trailer, like we use on all our Utah trips, has a full kitchen in the background, or in the back of the cargo trailer. We have a family that's also booked for this June that wants to come, and they prefer to eat most of their meals, dinners, not in restaurants. So we're doing a number of cookouts for that, and that's no problem. It's actually really a fun thing to do while you're outside in such a beautiful place, to be able to eat outside in the evening and control your menu and just have great evenings out. We love to do that anyway, so it's easy to do it a little more and really customize the trip for that family of 4 coming in June. As always, guides are going to get up early. They're going to prep a lunch. We do like to do packed lunches on all of our adventures. We might opt for a day where we do a little bit more formal lunch at the vehicle, but packed lunches give people the ability to snack, eat, hydrate along the trail, so they keep their energy levels up. And we're usually just going to pack a mixed bag of snacks and energy snacks, fruit, sandwich, and a complete day kit for lunch, which is really great. So we will, on the Journey of Discovery, leave Salt Lake City, drive about an hour and a half. So the dinosaur skeletons and all of the sites that we've seen at the Natural History Museum, now we're going to go into the field and actually see the Dinosaur Quarry. So at this site, they have found over 20 different dinosaurs that they've dug up, and they're still digging them up now. It's still an active dinosaur quarry. So what we'll do is we'll go down here and we'll meet with the paleontologist that will give us a guided tour of this spot. We'll then go a short distance to the Museum of the San Rafael, and we will have lunch there. People can go browse around inside if they'd like, but it's really just a good spot to stop for lunch, with restrooms and any facilities that people need that might take a quick look inside. But we do want to continue on our way. One of the interesting things about southern Utah is, along with all of the geology and all of the say paleontology, the dinosaurs, there's also a long history of Native Americans that occupied the area, and 5 distinct civilizations, one separated from the next, that occupied the area. The only thing that they really left was their rock art. So you can see in the right-hand corner, the Barrier Canyon style rock art that is a pictograph. A pictograph is painted onto the rock, stained onto the rock. They're ghost-like figures that give them their identity as Barrier Canyon. These are 8,000 years old or more. Absolutely incredible. There's also the archaic style, and these styles are going to be what we call a petroglyph. A petroglyph is pecked into the desert varnish layer, the dark layer of rock. It exposes the light layer, and when it does, they left their markings. They're all different. The ancestral Puebloan and Asazi, they're going to have these triangular features. They've got some negative, what would be a pictograph, but where they stained around their hands. Very, very interesting, distinctly different from one another, so you can identify the different civilization that left them there. The ancestral Puebloan was the first civilization that started to grow things, build granaries to store their harvest, and were more than just hunters and gatherers. Then we get into the Fremont Indians. We will see some different, on the left here, granaries that are left behind that were, where they stored their harvest, usually tucked up into the rocks where the shade came over, where they could seal that up, protect it from, say, critters or other people, and then get their harvest when they wanted to. Then we move on to the historic Paiute Navajo. These are going to be the most recent civilizations that occupied southern Utah and the Southwest. And we can tell, if we look at these petroglyphs on the right here, that we have a hunting scene with someone on horseback. So this gives us the idea that these are newer than those older pictographs, because the Spanish brought horses to the New World in 1630, and that's when they started to have horses with these different civilizations. And it's very interesting. They all have a unique look after you learn about the different looks and the different characteristics of the different civilizations. And it's very, very interesting to see these in a variety of areas throughout the state. So after we go to the San Rafael Museum for lunch, we will travel south a little bit further, another hour or so, and breaks up the day nice. And we'll go to this very remote area. If you can see my pointer here, we're going to pull into this parking lot here. It's very remote. I'd say that a number of times down here, you see very few, if any, people at all. And that's a really unique and fun thing. It's barely marked as a site with signs or anything. And we'll hike in and we'll be able to see 4 different rock art panels, and then this large panel called the Rochester panel on the right-hand side of my screen. So we look at that. These are petroglyphs that are pecked into the rock, Fremont Indian, and we can go over a lot of things when we're down here. Some of the big ones that we can see from here is what they think is a timeline running up the center here that's showing time. And then, of course, this famous rainbow that they think if you were to place a stick out in the ground from it, it would point to different areas of the rainbow here at different seasons, 4 different seasons. So they're always up for interpretation, very interesting. We'll spend some time at the Rochester panel and go to a really unique place that's not heavily traveled with tourism. Maybe some locals, maybe some people that know about it, but it is a very unique spot. So we try to hunt these different spots out, and they're countless. They are all over the place if you know where to go. So on the map here, this is our Mighty Five map. We're not going to make our way to Zion or Bryce. You can see my pointer. We're going to be coming in from the south on a road that crosses I-70 and making our way in the back way towards Torrey, Utah, which is just outside of Capitol Reef National Park. Again, here we do have with private groups some different options for lodging. This is a ranch that we stay at that has a buffalo herd on it. There's also a place close by that we stay at, and this is fun for the kids. They can stay in covered wagons, and mom and dad or the adults can stay in regular rooms. So we can really customize this in a lot of fun ways. And we'll spend a couple nights here at Capitol Reef. So we get to Capitol Reef, we will have had a long day that first day, and we will spend the night, and then the next day we'll go explore Capitol Reef National Park. The fun thing about Capitol Reef National Park is it's very uncrowded. It is kind of what they call the hidden gem of Utah, and it has amazing hikes. So you can see here a hike up through and under Hickman Bridge. To the right, them hiking right across Cassidy Arch, named after the famed outlaw Butch Cassidy, who used to hide out in this area. And then down lower left, some of what they call the Pioneer Register, where the early pioneers carved their name into the rock as they made it through the big pass, and basically we're at the end of the journey across from the Midwest. The other options that we have are really fun hikes down a creek bed there that has carved out the walls. We go down the creek, we can swim in waterfalls, there's a water slide at the end, and there are a number of options. So again, this trip is really good for families that might have parents with kids of different ages, different ability levels, families that also want to include the grandparents and the whole family together. And we will totally customize the days based on your ability, depending on what your interest levels are, but also what the activity levels will want to hit. This is a bigger group, but that night we usually do a barbecue picnic. I did this a number of times this summer with our families that came down and our private groups. And it's just a fantastic time in the picnic area at Capitol Reef. We'll spend the night, and then the next day we'll head through a different area of Capitol Reef National Park. We'll stop at the old schoolhouse. We'll stop at a pioneer cabin, the blacksmith shop, a number of other little sites in that historic town called Fruta that was occupied into the late 40s. And the schoolhouse and everything is still intact. You can see in the right-hand corner, it's all set up inside still. It's a really neat history of the country, and really neat to see the rugged way that these people lived back in the 1800s. So from this area of Torrey, we're going to continue on and go up by Goblin Valley State Park. Here we have the San Rafael Swell. So in the San Rafael Swell, there are a number of different slot canyons. We did different options for different groups this summer. We'll do different options for different groups all the time. But these are where the water has carved out narrow slots. So we can do everything from a non-technical slot to a more technical slot that would require some ropes and a harness on short rappels. If we had a group or small group, private, something like that, that wanted to do some bigger rappels, we can do anything you want. It just really depends on what people are interested in and what people want to learn. But people love these slot canyons. They're a lot of fun to explore. We usually swing by Goblin Valley State Park, maybe have lunch this day at their pavilion, looking out over all the hoodoos the goblins of Goblin Valley, before we make our way over to Moab. So if you can see my pointer, we head north to I-70 over east and then down into the Moab area, Colorado River running through Moab. And for 2 nights, we're going to stay in the town of Moab. We always have options. We like to, on this trip, spend 2 nights at the Hoodoo Lodge. It's right in Moab, and this gives our groups the opportunity to go explore Moab. It's a really fun, small town, and it's really a good time for people to, at the end of the day, maybe go look around in the shops and things like that. We also, on this trip, put one of the nights where our groups are free to go to dinner. Since there are so many dining options in Moab, we find it nice for them to just help them decide, and they can go explore and go to the dinner that they feel they'll enjoy. The following day, we'll go to Arches National Park. In Arches National Park, there are over 2,000 natural rock arches, and we will go see a number of them. I do like to go to a lot of their primitive trails to offset some of the traffic in this park, but nonetheless, Arches is a really nice park to visit. The arches are very unique to the country and the world, and really fun day for people. The following day, we'll go down to the southern area from Moab. So we'll travel south from Moab, and we'll go into Canyonlands National Park. On the way, we'll stop by this spot called Newspaper Rock. And it's a really good representation of a huge rock art panel with multiple civilizations that occupied and left their marks here on this great big panel. We'll then go to Canyonlands National Park. I like the Needles district in Canyonlands. There are 3 different districts: the Needle, the Island in the Sky, and the Maze district. The Needles district is one of my favorites because it's very remote, and the trails aren't great marked trails, so it's a great spot to go when you know where you're going. And it gets people out there with nobody else around. And we'll hike 8 miles on some trails. With some families this summer, we did a 4-mile loop. We can adjust the loop based on abilities and just make sure that we're hitting the mark for everybody along the way. This is a little different on this trip, but a really fun one for families and groups of people that want to experience the night outdoors. So when we come back to up after the day in Canyonlands, we can spend a night on the Colorado River in Castle Valley. We get a really nice group spot and do a camp out night. We do some Dutch oven cooking, which is the way the pioneers and the early Western explorers cooked over open fire in cast iron Dutch ovens. And it's really nice because this is one of the dark skies in the country. So we have an astronomer come out, set up telescopes, and give us a tour of the night sky, which is really fantastic. It's a great place to just see the stars with the naked eye, but when you have somebody with a telescope that sets up on different planets and different constellations and really gives you a tour of the sky, it's fantastic. So we have a fun evening out, camp on the river. There is always the option here with families, if the parents want to stay at the ranch this night, perfectly fine to customize that. And the kids could stay out at the camp spot, but we can do a lot of things here. If somebody didn't want to camp out, we could spend the night in the lodge. It's not a big deal. We usually stay pretty close in one of these group sites to the river right here. So this is the river section we would be running down in the morning. And the following morning after breakfast, we would load up in the rafts and run down a nice section of the Colorado. It's not too, about class 3 whitewater, so it's not too extreme, but a really nice river day in the summer, especially where you can swim off the rafts, have lunch on the beach, and have a day in the water again. As we get into the fall season, some of the times we opt out of the river day and just offset with another fantastic hiking day. So that evening, after the day on the river, we would move to the Red Cliffs Ranch, Red Cliffs Lodge. And there's a great pool, amazing views, nice restaurant out there, and spend the night out there. And then that evening, we would actually go into Moab and have our celebration dinner at a place called the Sunset Grill. This is a guy named Charlie Steen, who found uranium in the early 1950s, built a big mansion house here. He went from pretty much dirt poor to incredibly wealthy overnight when he found uranium. And when he did, he built this massive house overlooking Main Street of Moab, and now it is a really fantastic restaurant. So we like to do our celebration dinners here, which is a nice way to go. And, we can kind of think about our trip and everything else that we did along the way. Then we're going to spend the night, and then the next day we will also see some sights on the way back towards the airport. We usually stop by and see the dinosaur tracks. We'll see some other Native American rock art, and we make a stop by Dead Horse Point. So Dead Horse Point is a state park, but it's fantastic view of the Island in the Sky district. It is one of those places that I think rivals the Grand Canyon, and I've been to both many times. It's fantastic, and it's a great spot for group photographs, and I do think that Utah has something for everyone. And what I wanted to kind of share today was the fact that we can customize our trips in southern Utah. This summer, I do feel that there will be plenty of families that want to get going again and maybe get going a little closer to home. There'll be plenty of people, not just families, friends, and otherwise, that we can run these small group custom adventures for. So if you have 4 or 5 days, or you want to do the full 8-day trip, whatever amount of time that you want to come, we can make sure that you maximize the sites, what you see, and your experience each day. It'd be really easy to go down to southern Utah and try to look around and see some great sites out of the car and some of the national parks. But to take advantage of our local expertise and take advantage of the fact that we know really how to offset where everybody goes to these national parks and plan out the lodging and plan out the meals and plan everything out in 5 days or a full 8-day trip, you can really feel like you accomplished something in southern Utah. On the way back after Dead Horse Point, I like to swing by this little ghost town called Sago Canyon. And this was a mining ghost town. There's a long history of the outlaws in southern Utah, stories that we'll tell along the way from Capitol Reef and all these different areas. Butch Cassidy, the famous outlaw, was born in southern Utah, and he and Sundance and the Wild Bunch roamed the area for many years in the late 1800s. And there's a long history of the different areas that they settled and moved through and maybe robbed along the way. So there are a number of other fantastic sites to see, too many to really go over in a short presentation, but for surely a very interesting history, whether it's from hundreds of million years ago geologically, or the paleontology of 160 million years ago, or the different civilizations that occupied the areas 8, 6, 4, 3,000 years ago, right up through the 1800s until right now, when people are really enjoying the southern Utah area. And it's just an incredible experience and something that we want to share with people. We are looking forward to travel starting to open up around the world and the vaccine rolling out to people. We do have trips planned to Peru in June and Machu Picchu that are going. We have trips going to Kilimanjaro this June as well. And then we're hoping that Europe is open for travel in the Alps by late summer and the fall. And we also have a number of these Utah trips booked on privates and some of our alumni special interest groups, but it's absolutely a fantastic place. I ran 7 private tours down here last summer, and I would say that everybody was surprised at a lot of things along the way. And I know when my guests have a good time, and I know that they had a good time. So I'm going to take any questions as usual right now. So if anybody does have some questions, I'm happy to answer them. We are always available here to talk about a trip. And on a trip like this, our standard Mighty 5, this journey of discovery, we put a lot of time into the plans on those trips. But if there are special things or special amount of days that people want to come, we're happy to help them out along the way and make sure that you're getting all of the things that interest you. So let's see here. Doesn't look like I have any questions today. Let me check over here. Nope, I don't. So thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure, as always, to present our destination series. I am quite proud of the fact that we've done 11 of these in a row. It's 11 Saturdays I've been able to come in here and put a presentation together to share with our guests. And we are super excited to get going again this summer. Contact us if you have any questions about Southern Utah, any of our other trips. We'll look forward to seeing you as we start to travel around the world and right here close to home in Southern Utah. Have a good day.